Yo, what's up fam? It's your boy NoisySauce here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Native Instruments Battery and why I think it is the ultimate software drum machine.
Throwing some sauce on that beat.
So I've loaded up this instance of Battery here, and I've just dragged in a fairly simple sounding snare. And I'm just going to go through all of the features in Battery that pertain to how to manipulate that sound to get it exactly how you want it. Now, Battery comes with a lot of samples. I don't know the exact number, but it's got to be thousands of samples. If you search snare, there's hundreds and hundreds of samples of just like heaps of snare drums. So you already get quite a lot of sounds. But within Battery, there's also a lot you can do to manipulate those sounds. And I'm just going to take you through each one of those parts. The first thing is the tuning. So I've run up a loop here so I can just play and we'll manipulate it as we go. So what I was doing there is just playing with the tuning. So you've got the ability to drop or push up each sample by up to 3 octaves each way, which is huge. There's a lot of sound you can get in there. Also, you can decide whether you want to stretch it like I had it there, or if you just want to use it as a sampler, which will automatically increase or decrease the length of the sample. So there's a lot of sounds you can get there. Also, you can reverse the sample. Get a whole bunch of different sounds like that. Really simple. Easy way to do stuff like that. There's also the volume envelope, and I use this quite a bit. You can change the length of the sample just by dragging this end time here. But I feel that's not as good as using the volume envelope, because if you're using something that's got a bit of bass in it, you tend to get a bit of a clicking noise when it hits that end. Just not the best way to do it. You can also change the start time as well, so that's kind of cool. So with the volume envelope, you put that on and you can change the length of the attack. Hold, and then how long it decays out for. You can go to even more advanced setup here, where you have the release and sustain settings as well. So there's a lot you can do with that volume envelope, get a lot of different sounds out of that snare drum. There's also the pitch envelope, which is kind of cool. With this, you can get it so that it kind of pitches either down into the sound or up into the sound. I'll show you what that sounds like in extreme settings. Again, a really cool way to change up a fairly basic sounding sample. Over here, we've got a simple filter. Take out your high end, take out your low end, turn it into a lo-fi sample. Really easy to use, pretty cool. There's a compressor here. I don't use this compressor much because I think it's a bit too simple. But if you just want to use that to bump up the sound and get it crushed a little bit really quickly, that is there for you to use. Next up, we've got the effects tab here, and this is where stuff gets a little bit more intense. You've got saturation here. The tape saturation is pretty average because it turns down your sample as you turn the gain up. I don't like that. But if you go to like classic or drums, you can just slam the sample really hard with that. The tape saturation is a little bit cooler because it's got your warmth and a high frequency cut. But cool sound, pretty useful. I don't use the saturation that much because I find saturators in other plugins are a bit better, but it's there, it's simple to use, and it's within the plugin, so that's awesome. You got a lo-fi here, which is quite useful. You can drop the bit rate, get some nice crunchy sounds here, put some noise in there. Just get a really interesting set of sounds out of that. There's also a EQ or filter. You can change this between low pass, high pass, band pass, peak notch, effect, solid G EQ, which is like a 4-band parametric EQ that has a shelf on the high, shelf on the low, and 2 mid-ranges, but the shelves can be changed to bells as well. Or you just have a standard 3-band EQ in there as well. The low pass is quite useful. If you bump up the resonance, you can get pretty cool sounding filtered snares and kicks and stuff like that. And if you're just looking to straight EQ, the solid G EQ is really good for just getting a different sound. You got a compressor here. Now this is a much more useful compressor than the one on the main page. It has a lot more features. You got attack, release, makeup, mix, ratio, and threshold. You can really manipulate this quite a bit. So you can slam it, turn up the attack a bit, get some really attacky. There you go. And there's also different types of compressors as well. So you've got your classic, pro, or your solid bus compressor, which is, I'm guessing, based off a SSL, channel strip compressor, I'm pretty sure. Really useful. Lots you can do in there. You've also got a transient shaping section here, which is kind of similar to the compressor and what you can do with it, just like adding a whole bunch of attack. Or if you want to take the attack down, you can do that. And again, sustain, bump that up, or push it out. Just completely changing the tone of the sample. In modulation, this is more of a performance kind of thing, but you can I use this a lot with hi-hats. You can say turn on a sine wave to a whole note, and then drag it so that it's a few bars long. Make an LFO and pan, and so what that's doing is it's controlling the pan of the track via this LFO here, and so you can hear that's panning it around the stereo field, although it is kind of stuck. I know, it's just taking a really long time to do it. So that's really cool. Another way I like to use this particular section is running it in the filter there. So if you go filter cutoff, and then you change this to low pass, and you can bump that up and bump the resonance up. you can hear it jumping around there, although you probably want to have it slightly less intense than that, so you can really hear it doing its thing. And you get those cool builds and stuff that are awesome for EDM tracks or build-ups in the pre-choruses of hip-hop tracks. Really useful section there. Not only can you run to the LFO, but you can also change to the modulation envelope, the volume envelope, pitch envelope. There's so much you can do here to just manipulate the sound. In the setup here, this is more of a performance kind of thing. You can change it so your velocity is always full bore or anywhere in between, that kind of thing. Change the amount of voices you have, MIDI echo. Humanize is pretty useful if you want to just kind of give something a bit more of a human sound. It kind of changes the level of the, so if you've got like a constant like shotgun hi-hat where it's just like full bore 16th notes, this will kind of manipulate the level of the volume a little bit to kind of make it sound a little bit more human, like it's been played, and also the time, that will kind of drift it in and out of time slightly, just to kind of give it a little bit more of a human element to it. Editor, I don't think this one is that useful when it comes to these kind of samples that are already good. This is more if you're wanting to cut up your own samples and manipulate them. And finally, you've got a lot of these effects in your master bus to affect everything. And you can also do the same thing to all of the output buses if you want to. There's a reverb and a delay. The reverb is quite useful. I'll show you what that sounds like as soon as I turn off this modulation that I've got here. What have I done? There we go. So you can turn up some delay, some reverb. I find there's two types of reverb here, and it's not too noticeable which one's which, but this reverb seems to be a lot more useful and just like way more versatile. So you've got a whole bunch of different halls, springs, plates, heaps of different stuff to choose from here to get different sounds. I think it's a convolution reverb, and you can you've got a filter, low pass, high pass filter, and a size for this. So it's quite a useful reverb. Probably not the best reverb in the world, but for something that's like nice and quick and it's in the drum machine that you're already using, I think it's super useful. Also, the delay there has a lot of features. Don't normally put delays on snare drums, but I mean, you can. Pretty cool sounds. I think that's about it when it comes to what is included. If you gave me the chance to have one drum machine, it would definitely be this one. I can't think of any other machine that's got this much ability to change sounds, manipulate sounds, and do pretty much everything you need to do within the unit itself. If I lost this plugin, I would definitely buy it again. So that's Battery, and that's how you can manipulate sounds with it. Peace out.